Well, everyone, welcome to Cavs Insider. This is kind of a rare sight. We've got Joe Vardon and Chris Haynes here in studio to get ready for the NBA Finals. I'm Dan Labbe. I also talked to Chris Fedor. We're going to run that for you a little bit later in the show. But guys, it is a long layoff until the Finals. This has to be good for both teams. Joe, who do you think it benefits the most, though, to have all this time off between the end of the conference finals and now the start of the finals?
Well, I guess you'd have to say the Cavs, if only because they had more injured players, I believe, than Golden State. I mean, if you look at Kyrie Irving and then you look at LeBron and Iman Shumpert, I mean, those are three really critical pieces that needed the time. Obviously, you have Klay Thompson on the other side. And one thing that really has gone untalked about in that deciding game for Golden State, Steph Curry hit a three and came down on his ankle really funny. Yeah. And he was limping around, but you haven't heard or seen much about that, so you have to assume he's okay. Either way, I like this layoff for the Cavs. Get them right for the finals.
Now, Chris, an argument could be made that the Cavs are playing so well against Atlanta. They had kind of found their mojo a little bit, just really dominating the Hawks over those final three games. Does the layoff hurt them in a way, or is it good for them just because of all those injuries?
Well, I think it's good for the Cavs. But back to your initial question, I think it's probably more – I think if this layoff probably helps the Warriors more so. Think of Klay Thompson in his concussion situation. If the league thought of – which they did. They thought about bringing the NBA Finals starting it sooner. Klay would have been out at least a game or a game two, because he's still not clear as of now. And so the whole layoff actually helps him, is where he's not going to miss that game Thursday. He's going to be there. So it definitely, I believe it does help the Warriors' case much more so than it does the Cavs.
Ultimately, what do you guys think of? There's nothing the NBA could have done about it. It happened, but it is rare to have this much time off between games. Is it good for the league? Is it bad for the league? Does it lose momentum for the playoffs? Maybe there wasn't much momentum to begin with in these playoffs.
Well, yeah, especially you think about the Eastern Conference. There wasn't much momentum. People wasn't. That was atrocious. Hawks, Cavs series. That was one of the worst conference finals I've ever seen in a while. But no, I think it's good build-up. I think it's just enough. And the good thing about it is, for both teams in particular, they've had availability, so we've been able to get some sound bites and keep everybody interested. It's like the Super Bowl, that week leading up to the Super Bowl. And I think it's been good.
And this is a Super Bowl-esque finals. The NBA couldn't have drawn this up better. LeBron James, Steph Curry, Cavs, Warriors, best team all year with Golden State, best team since January 13th with the Cavs. I mean, this is what they would want, and they've got it.
Yeah, the MVP versus the former MVP, and a guy that's got a pretty good case to maybe have been the MVP as well in LeBron James. Let's get right to it, though. Let's get to the players. And let's talk about Kyrie Irving. His health obviously is a big issue going into this series, because we know, Chris, when he's healthy, he's a guy that can put 57 points on the Spurs and can have big nights. When he's not healthy, he kind of just becomes that spot-up shooter. He loses that explosiveness around the rim. How healthy is Kyrie Irving right now?
Well, he's not going to be 100%. He's not going to be anywhere close to that, start of game one. And he's admitted that. Coach Blatt has admitted that. I think what they're hoping is just his presence alone will help space the floor, because you have to account for where he's at on the court at all times. But as long as Kyrie Irving is hitting that spot-up jump shot, which he's going to be able to do that. He's one of the purest shooters we have in this league. But as we see, at times, he did it against Atlanta. At times, he can go isolation and still get to the cup. He probably can't do it as much and can't probably do it as efficiently as we're accustomed to seeing, but he can still be effective out there.
How do the Cavaliers approach things if Kyrie's not healthy?
Well, I guess the good news would be that they've had to play roughly the last 6 games that way. They're used to it. They know how to use Dellavedova, who can probably allow them to better cross-match against Golden State than a limping Kyrie could. They would be better off with Delly handling Barnes, even maybe in a pinch trying to chase around Klay Thompson, whereas if Kyrie's gimping around, that'll be more difficult. So they know how to do it, but the bottom line is that they need Kyrie Irving to play as hard as he can for as long as he can, and to be able to fight through that initial wave of pain that comes. And that's where they hope that he is.
And if nothing else, with Kyrie Irving, even if he's not that same guy that can get to the rim and can dominate around the rim, probably better than anybody, better finisher in the league than anybody, he's still a pretty good shooter. And that's kind of how this series is going to be determined, right? The three-point shot.
Yeah. It's spacing. It's all about spacing. That's what he can provide. One leg and all. he still can shoot the basketball. And what happened in the Chicago series, Chicago forgot about him for long stretches. And LeBron was getting off, and then when they forgot about him, LeBron started kicking it out to him, feeding him, and then he got his mojo going. So once his perimeter shot is going, even though he's out there hobbling on one leg, he just feels like he can do more, and he was able to do that. So it's going to be mentally with him.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be a rare case where a journalist admits he doesn't know. I don't think we know what's going on with Kyrie right now. We saw him in Game 4 against the Hawks, and he looked pretty good. Was he 100%? No, but he was able to get near the rim. He was finishing. And afterwards, the first availability the Cavs had after that game, they praised him heavily for not only how he looked there, but how he appears to be progressing. Since, it's been far scaled back. And it's unclear at this point if there's some gamesmanship going on the part of the Cavs, or if Kyrie has had some sort of setback. But if they get the Kyrie Irving that they had in Game 4 against the Hawks, I really think that that's a positive for the Cavs in this series.
And the other thing Kyrie does, too, is he gives them another ball handler. Because we saw against Atlanta, LeBron James had to go into point guard mode a lot, and that's going to take a lot out of him physically in a series that's going to be fast-paced. This team doesn't have a lot of guys that can handle the basketball as well as LeBron and Kyrie.
Yeah, and with LeBron, in order to use all of his strengths, you need to be able to get him off of the ball some. You can't have him 90-95% setting up everything, setting up plays for himself and for others. You got to get him off the ball free to roam, get him out in the post. And Kyrie helps. Dellavedova helps at certain extents. But with Kyrie Irving out there, they're definitely able to use all their skill sets.
All right, let's talk about Steph Curry. Obviously, the Cavaliers, LeBron James said the other day that you kind of stop LeBron and Steph the same way. You don't. Yeah. But how will the Cavaliers try and slow down Steph Curry, Joe?
Well, it sounds and it seems like their best option would be to try to cross-match on him with Iman Shumpert. That's the one that makes the most sense. They had some success with Curry in February when Golden State was here, and Kyrie largely guarded him. Yeah. He was 5 of 17. That's the thing about these Warriors is if you can defend the perimeter, if you can stay on them, they are primarily a jump shooting team, and there are going to be nights when the ball doesn't go in the hole. The thing about Curry and then Thompson is you cannot give them any space whatsoever. So, the best way to do this is to go over screens. That's something they've talked about at all costs, and probably to use Shumpert primarily on Curry if the idea is to slow him down.
Can Shump stay with him?
Yeah, well, he's the best. He's their best option. I would say that. The Warriors runs, their offense is so efficient, man. They got bigs that actually set screens. Andrew Bogut, Draymond Green. They really like to hit you. Remind me of Kendrick Perkins. So Steph, Clay, they're going to get their open looks. And I think Iman Shumpert and those guys, like Joe said, they have to get through the screens. You can't go under. And if you're not getting through the screens, you got to have the big come out and help and trap and get that ball rotated over to the big man. I think that's their best bet. But when you ask, can they stop him? They have a better chance of stopping. Brown was just being flattering. They have a better chance of stopping Steph. If you get up in his airspace and create the looks he has on the offensive end, you can do a better job on him than you can on LeBron.
And that thing you mentioned about the bigs having to get out and defend, that's where the emergence of Tristan Thompson is so important. That's if he's called upon to do that, that's better than Mozgov going out there and having to do that.
And that's the thing with Tristan, especially when they use Tristan at the center spot. You can switch everything with Tristan, where that's a luxury to have, opposed to exposing your big man, Timothy Mozgov, out there, on the perimeter. Sometimes he may get just matched up one-on-one with Steph. That's what they don't want to see. Yeah. So Tristan Thompson, he can do a good job of making sure he doesn't get beat to the point where he can't recover. And also, if he wants him to take that shot, he can make it a contested jump shot, just like we've seen with Derrick Rose play. Rose just hit a crazy game winner.
We're going to get back to Mozgov, but first I want to kind of flip the script a little bit. Let's talk about what Golden State might throw at LeBron.
Yeah, well, there are a few options there. I think that they will start out, like when the ball goes in the air on Thursday night, they'll start out with Harrison Barnes on LeBron. But I think they can quickly switch with Draymond Green from a starter's perspective. And then you also have Andre Iguodala coming off the bench, and then Livingston is another one, is another option. So I think for the first time in a while, you have bodies that you can throw at him without double teaming. Now, as David Blatt correctly pointed out this week, take a look at the last time the Warriors played LeBron and the Cavs and ask yourself how that worked. Not well. LeBron had 42 points. So, when you think about this series, the Warriors were the best team in the NBA for a reason. The Cavs were the best team in the second half for a reason. So they're going to have things that work. Steph Curry just might work in this series. Yeah. LeBron just might work in this series. And it's how each team gets around those two things. Rather than trying to stop those two guys, how do you get around how good they are?
Yeah, I mean, that's what's great about the NBA. You can do all you want to try and stop guys, but sometimes LeBron's just LeBron, or Steph is just Steph. But that being said, Chris, what are you doing if you're the Warriors? What are you throwing at LeBron?
Well, you meant Clay was another guy. Clay also sees some time on LeBron as well. Yeah. He's arguably the best defensive shooting guard we have in this league. So he'll see some spot time. But, all those guys that Joe mentioned, they're all going to be on him. The more bodies you have, the better. But also, let's not forget that big man down there who is arguably the best shot blocker we have in this league, and Andrew Bogut. He's welcoming LeBron James. He wants to come in that paint. Come on, big man. You want to get the shot block, alter. You want to go down to the ground because it's not going to be anything easy. LeBron James is going to make his plays, but all those guys, number one, none of those guys can hold LeBron James by themselves. They can only hope to contain him, but they're all going to be shadowing him probably to the baseline towards Andrew Bogut. And that's where the whole defensive scheme concept comes in. You need a help defense. I think they want to try to take LeBron out, make him as inefficient as possible, and try to make the other guys beat him. And I think that's the game plan going forward.
And there is sort of that misperception, I guess, about Golden State because they are a perimeter team. They're a team that shoots a lot of threes. Yeah. People kind of think, they're not that tough.
Their defense was, I believe, was number
Green,
one. Yeah.
Bogut, and their defense overall. That is a tough basketball team.
Right. I think Chris and I are both betting on LeBron in this series. We both think that he's too good for the Warriors. However, if you look at from a playoffs perspective, as in every series we've seen so far, I think the best scheme against LeBron was Boston's. Mm-hmm. And I think the best team to execute that same scheme would be Golden State. Try to play him as man up as you can and sit in the passing lanes. Boston tried that. They also tried an immediate double team on him, but the key was sitting in the backdoor passing lanes. And it worked for a while. Golden State has the personnel to do it. We'll see for how long it works.
All right, I said I wanted to talk a little bit about Mozgov because David Blatt's had some trouble kind of figuring out where to use him, when to use him, and sometimes you just can't have him out there. Yeah. Golden State throws a lot of different lineups at you, Chris. Is this going to be a series where maybe Mozgov's impact isn't felt as much because Golden State can go a little smaller and still really not lose that physicality?
I think so, but I think if you look at their starting unit, that's really a small lineup because Bogut is your only big man. Draymond Green plays the power forward, but he's really undersized. Yeah. So I really do think Mozgov is going to have a limited impact in this series just because he's a big guy. You really don't need him. Tristan Thompson can slide to that center spot, which he does all the time. LeBron James at that power forward spot matched up with Draymond Green, and then the rest, James Jones or whoever coach wants to put out there. But this is a small lineup, anyways, and I think that with that being said, Timothy Mozgov, in order for Blatt to make a case that he should be playing the last 5 minutes of the game, he has to have an impact in the game in the first quarter. It's all going to be about the first quarter. If he can have his impact and show that, hey man, my contribution is what's needed for this team to win, and I think that's what's going to win Blatt's favor in the final closing minutes of the game.
And, Joe, it's not all bad if the Cavs have to go smaller because we've seen really throughout LeBron's career, he can thrive sometimes. If you put him out there, him, a couple shooters, give him a rebounder, he can thrive.
Well, I mean, this is something that Chris has been talking about all season, about the Cavs' ability to win multiple ways. They've shown us that they can win with a small ball lineup. However, from a strictly matchup perspective, I actually think that what Golden State presents for Timofey Mozgov is very similar to the Hawks. The Cavs, on paper, are much bigger. They are. And the way that Timofey can affect the game is if he can show, kind of what Chris was referring to in the first quarter, that he can catch the ball on offense.
Catching is important.
If he catches the ball in the post early
That's part of the game,
and can score the ball early, that's basically how he stays in the game. Yeah. When he's dropping the ball, when he's cutting to the hole and LeBron's finding him and it's rolling off of his feet or his knees, that's when you see Timofey come out, because he's so big down there, but he doesn't help if he doesn't catch the entry pass. He's going to play well defensively. That's how he stays in the game.
He could find a spot on the Browns with hands like that, probably.
You know.
Got to incorporate the Browns somehow, right? Matthew Dellavedova, besides helping the local T-shirt economy, has also established himself as a pretty good backup point guard, a physical guy. Some people say dirty. What kind of impact can he have on this series, Joe?
Wow, if he has any impact on this series, then I mean, Golden State is really, then Golden State has some issues. And what I mean by that is...
Yeah, explain, elaborate, please.
The kind of impact that he had in Atlanta. And LeBron said it best, that Atlanta's worrying about Delly instead of worrying about how to win games. And so if he gets into their heads that way, then Golden State has fallen into a similar trap. On the floor, from a talent perspective, Delly has turned himself into someone who can make an outside shot when it matters. He really still struggles to bring the ball up the floor and initiate any kind of offense.
Yeah.
So, his impact would be defensively, hustling, and knocking down that occasional shot.
It's going to have to be the intangibles with Dellavedova, because unfortunately you got Stephen Curry over there, you got Sean Livingston, who can start on most other teams at that position. So Dellavedova, I think it's going to be him getting into the heads of the other players. It's not going to work with Steph. It's not. It's going to be some big man or something like that. But as long as the game is so simplified for him, as long as Dellavedova is playing good defense, getting in position, knocking the open threes, he'll be fine. But if you're expecting him, that's one other thing. People keep saying, Delly plays great defense or whatnot. I mean, let's be real here. He picks up full court, and that does put pressure on him. That's not playing great defense, because if you put him in an isolation situation, he's going to be exposed. So you have to make sure you put Dellavedova in the right situations to succeed and not try to expect miracles to happen, because it's not happening. You just want him to play his game.
Delly is that guy in your rec league that just nobody else is playing any defense, and he's just in your shirt the whole time. Just drives you crazy.
Just gets on your nerves, but you can go by it. Man, that's the thing. You have to. He puts so much fear by the way he moves. He's always moving. He's never really going anywhere, but he's always moving in place, and so that puts fear in some people. That's not going to work with Steph.
But when you're drawing up a game plan to stop the Cavs, and you say, okay, well, where is the body that we can take off of someone to throw him at LeBron?
Yeah.
Just on paper, you think, okay, well, when Dellavedova is on the floor, that's the guy. But to his credit, he has turned himself into someone who, if you leave him, he will hurt you. And he's done it all playoffs long, and that's an option.
We're talking about him. That's something right there.
No doubt.
We spent 5 minutes on Dellavedova right there.
All right, this is such I'm going to own this. This is such a cliche question. But before we go to the segment with Chris Fedor, give me an X factor in this series. Who do you think is the guy? Not LeBron, not Steph, maybe not even Clay. Take him out of the equation. Who's the guy that impacts this series?
Well, let's go with the man, the myth, the legend, Tristan Thompson.
All right.
The guy, the offensive rebounding machine, the relentless glass crasher, the one who never stops. I don't see anybody in this series on that team that can match him pound for pound. Draymond Green was the runner-up in the Defensive Player of the Year. He's going to be overmatched. I see Tristan Thompson coming up with extra possessions after extra possessions. He's just that relentless. I think he's the X factor.
J.R. Smith. I've said it, and now this was even more so when they had Kevin Love, but it's still the same. It's you defend the Cavs for 20 seconds. They can't throw the ball inside. LeBron's covered. Shot clock's winding down. Somehow they make one last pass to JR, and he's standing, way past the time, or near the timeline almost. And what happens? He just bails you out with a three. When that J.R. Smith is on the floor and the ball's going in, I don't think you can beat the Cavs. If he's making that shot, I see him as the X factor.
That's actually the perfect combo, because then if J.R. Smith misses that shot, Tristan's there to get the rebound. All that defense.
And give it right back to him. Yeah.
Give it right back. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Earlier, as I said, I had a chance to talk to Chris Fedor, the other member of our Cavaliers reporting team. We did some fill-in-the-blanks. Here it is. Okay, now I am here with Chris Fedor. We're going to do some fill-in-the-blanks. And Chris, let's get to it. Let's talk matchups. Let's talk about the matchup for each star. Mm-hmm. The player on Golden State that can give LeBron James the most trouble is blank.
Are you talking defensively?
Defensively.
It's got to be Draymond Green. It's funny because so many people are talking about, who's going to guard LeBron, how's Golden State going to keep Tristan Thompson off the glass. Draymond Green has been asked to defend Anthony Davis already in the postseason, Mark Gasol, Zach Randolph, Dwight Howard at times. He's really, really versatile, and he can play a variety of positions. And look, there's nobody on Golden State that has a defender the caliber of Jimmy Butler. The Cavs saw Jimmy Butler in the Eastern Conference semifinals, and he did a miraculous job against LeBron. I'm still wowed by how good he played against LeBron. So I recognize that Draymond Green is not Jimmy Butler, and there's nobody individually on Golden State that can be like that. But Draymond Green has the best chance. He was an all-defensive team member for a reason. He got some votes for Defensive Player of the Year for a reason. He's the heart and soul, really, of the Golden State defense. And I think he's going to get the task of trying to handle LeBron. And I can tell you this, he's not going to slow him down. He's not going to shut him down, but he is going to fight him every single possession and try and wear him out. That's the value of a guy like Draymond.
All right, let's flip this now and let's talk about Steph Curry. The player on the Cavaliers that gives Steph Curry the most trouble is?
Well, I think it's Iman Shumpert because of what Shumpert has shown that he's able to do. He's guarded Derrick Rose at times already in the postseason. He's guarded Jeff Teague already. He's got that size, the length, the versatility, the athleticism. Those kinds of things can give Steph some problems. If you go back to some of these other playoff series, a guy like Drew Holiday has been talked about as somebody who gives Steph some problems because of that length, the athleticism, the size overall. Mike Conley Jr. with Memphis, he's somebody who has given Steph problems in the past. Patrick Beverley, he wasn't there for the Houston Rockets, but that was a matchup that so many people were looking forward to. I just don't think Kyrie, given his condition, dealing with left knee tendonitis, is somebody who can eliminate Steph Curry or even slow down Steph. So I think the best option for the Cavs is Iman Shumpert, but at the same time, that would make things even more difficult for the Cavs to try and hide Kyrie. So I think the best approach for the Cavs is to put Kyrie on Steph and not have to worry about other mismatches, other places on the court. But the guy who can do the best job on Steph is Iman Shumpert.
One of those, kind of let Steph get his.
Right.
And just make sure the other guys don't.
Right, because the minute that you take Kyrie off of Steph Curry, then all of a sudden, Dan, you have to figure out, okay, who are we going to put Kyrie on? Because your game plan then is actually saying, we don't have anybody for Kyrie to guard, so we're welcoming a mismatch. I don't think you want to go into a series in the NBA Finals saying that our defense is predicated on allowing a mismatch to happen.
All right, you mentioned Kyrie Irving. We know he's banged up. He hasn't been the same Kyrie since that Boston series. So Kyrie Irving will be blank in this series.
Will be frustrating in this series. That's how I would put it out there. And that means that guys like Shumpert are going to have to step up, and J.R. Smith and Tristan Thompson, because I think you're going to see some games from Kyrie like you saw in Game 5 against Chicago, where he has one of those games where he gets to the free throw line, he's knocking down some three-pointers, he's getting into the paint, and he's doing some quality things. And then I think there are going to be other games like you saw in the Chicago series, Game 6, where he tweaks his knee or something happens where he's not 100% or his shot's not falling inside the paint, and he's frustrating. I just don't think the consistent Kyrie that we saw in the regular season, Dan, the one that went for 55 against Portland when LeBron wasn't there, 57 in San Antonio against a Greg Popovich defense, I just don't think we're going to see that guy consistently during the NBA Finals. There's going to be a game of 25, and then probably a game of 10, then a game of 22, and probably a game of 15, and all the while, him being pretty frustrating on the defensive end because he can't do some of the things that he was able to do in the regular season.
All right, let's get back to matchups. Let's take Steph Curry now out of the equation. Aside from him, the biggest matchup problem for the Cavs is blank.
I think it's Klay.
Klay.
I think it's Klay Thompson just because he's the second best player for Golden State. He's somebody who can get his shot off in a variety of ways. If you go back to that Atlanta series, Kyle Korver, the only way that he was going to get a shot off is if somebody created that shot for him or if they just ran offense for him, getting him to move without the ball, getting him to come off of screens, pin downs, things like that. Clay's not that kind of guy. He can catch and shoot. He can put it on the deck and drive. He can post up. That's the other thing. The Cavs haven't seen a lot of guys with his skill set that can go into the post and create a shot that way. Korver couldn't do it. Derrick Rose did it every now and then, but Mike Dunleavy really couldn't do it. So I think Klay presents the biggest matchup problem beyond Steph.
All right. If the Cavs win this series, it will be because blank.
Because LeBron has one of those transcendent series. Because that's what it comes down to, really. When you talk about the NBA Finals, you can look at Golden State and say they're the better team. And I think Golden State is the better team. And I think they've proven that. 67 wins. The number 2 offense in the regular season. The number 1 defense in the regular season. Probably the best starting 5 of anybody in the NBA. Probably the best 8-man rotation of anybody in the NBA. But the trump card that the Cavs have, and the one that they've always had, is LeBron. And it's not just LeBron the player. It's LeBron getting his teammates to buy in a way that maybe they shouldn't be buying in, instilling confidence in a guy like Matthew Dellavedova and Tristan Thompson and J.R. Smith and Iman Shumpert. And the intangible of he's got the finals experience. Steph hasn't been there. Klay hasn't been there. Harrison Barnes. Nobody playing for the Golden State Warriors has been to the NBA Finals. So you wonder how a team is going to respond in that kind of situation. And if it gets to a Game 7 or if it's a tight game late, I'll take my chances with a guy like LeBron because of his talent and because of his finals experience, understanding how to handle that moment probably better than anybody on Golden State.
All right, that being said, because I'm going to ask the other guys this, what's your pick?
My pick is Cavs in 7, and when you pick anything in 7, that means you have absolutely no clue what's going to happen, and you're basically flipping a coin. And again, I think Golden State's the better team, but they don't have LeBron, and they don't have the finals experience. And I think the way that LeBron is playing right now, and the way that his teammates are playing around him because of how LeBron is playing and the pickle that he puts a defense in, I think that's enough for me to not be willing to bet against the Cavs in this series.
All right, Chris Fedor, fill in the blank. We're done with that. Let's go back to the desk. All right, Chris Fedor filling in the blanks. Now I'm back here with Chris Haynes and Joe Vardon, guys. Somebody we haven't talked about, David Blatt. Of course, Steve Kerr on the other side. A couple of, and don't tell Coach Blatt I use this word, rookie head coaches. What a job. I mean, when David Blatt took this job, Joe, this wasn't the job he signed up for. And then he gets LeBron, Kevin Love. All of a sudden he goes from a building project to an instant championship contender. What sort of job do you think David Blatt has done? And does he deserve some of the criticism and the heat he's gotten, or has that been overblown?
No, it hasn't been overblown. Of course he deserves some of it. Just like he deserves credit for them being in the finals. There's no doubt. Listen, no one was more critical of the coach, I believe, than LeBron.
Yep.
And he talked about it. He showed it with his body language in November and December. The Cavs quietly lately have admitted that LeBron was frustrated with David Blatt during that time. And what has happened since? Well, LeBron decided to give David the chance he deserved. David grew in the role, and it's been much better. At times, there's still been some problems. Let us not forget, as recently as the Chicago series, when reporters went to LeBron and said, well, what happened in Game 1? You lost. And he said, well, it was the game plan. So let's not forget that where the criticism came from. David also deserves credit. They've had to play 6 games without Kyrie Irving, basically, and a bunch more without Kevin Love, and they're in the finals. And so you don't do that without having some really good coaching moments, and I think they've been there.
And also all those times that you'd hear David Blatt say one thing, and then 30 seconds later, LeBron would say something completely different. But overall, Chris, what do you think of Blatt's performance so far?
Well, he's here. He's still here. He's still here.
Going.
And he's going strong, and he's in the NBA Finals, and you can't take anything away from him. I still would say that, he was a timeout away from this being it. From this being, we just having a totally different discussion right now. Probably a coaching search, even though I talked to Dan Gilbert last week, and he told me that, hey, even after that timeout, we didn't have any plans to make a move. Everybody makes mistakes. I've never seen a coach at that level make a mistake where he calls a timeout and costs his team the game. But with that being said, you got to give Blatt credit for the defensive adjustments and defensive schemes that he's changed since the trade pieces came on board. And they're here, man. One thing about Blatt, man, he's very confident in what he can bring to the table. Arrogant, yes, Confident? Yes. But he's that way because he's been so successful where he's been. And all he's been asking of us and everybody else is that we accept that he's an accomplished coach, no matter where he got those victories at. And at times, that matters. You know, that does matter because, you know, this is the NBA, and you have to gain your respect. I think he's slowly doing that now.
All right, guys, it's that time. I know you've got posts going up with your predictions. I think yours is already up. I'm not sure if you put your official prediction up yet at cleveland.com/Cavs. All right, let's get it on video now. Chris, what's your pick?
I got the Cavs in 6 simply because the way LeBron James is keyed in right now, it's just difficult for me to pick against them. So that's why I'm going with the Cavs.
Joe?
When the basketball analytics geeks tried to find reasons months ago why the Cavs would not win the finals, they pointed to defense. No team in however many years has won a championship playing as poorly defensively as the Cavs. Well, the Cavs are now the best defensive team in the NBA in the postseason. I believe they're defending well enough to win this series. I've got the 50-year championship drought in this city ending with a Game 7 victory.
Should be fun.
Ooh,
Make sure,
in Golden State.
In Golden State, with the utmost brass to win it there, and that's what's going to happen.
That would have been the biggest feat of LeBron James' career.
Absolutely.
Like that.
Yeah. All right, there you have it. All 3 of our Cavs guys. You heard Fedor's prediction earlier. Going with the Cavs. Make sure you're downtown that night if the Cavaliers do clinch. It will be who knows how long of a party here in Cleveland if they end that drought. Like I said, it's rare that we get these guys in studio. They're incredibly busy. Chris Haynes, Joe Vardon, thanks for taking the time to join us.
Our pleasure.
I'm Dan Labbe. Thanks for watching.
Because I speak for him.